Dr. Graham, the back pain professor. Today we're going to talk about stenosis. I get a lot of patients that come in, they go, Dr. Graham, my medical doctor said I have something called stenosis. And a lot of times they don't really understand what it is. So I'm going to spend the next 3 or 4 minutes explaining about stenosis. So let's talk about the definition. The definition is there's a narrowing of the canal where the nerves come out. So here's the spine, here's all these nerves. Well, there's some holes there that have narrowed up, that are putting stress on the nerve, and they call that stenosis. And there's a few ways, there's a few things that make that hole narrow, and we're going to discuss that today. But first, I want to talk about what normal looks like. So let's take a look at a couple pictures here. We're looking at the side of the spine here. So here we go. We're up here now, side of the spine. You can see it should look, we should have a lot of space right in there for the spinal cord to go through and the nerves. We're looking at the top of it, down, a lot of space there. This is a lumbar spine here. Here's the spinal bones. Here's the spinal nerves and the spinal cord. And here's the anatomist figured out that space there is roughly an inch. You can see it's about 1.25 inches at the bottom, and up here it's about 0.96, so basically an inch at the top. So it averages out just a little over an inch. Now, let's look at an x-ray, and you can see this is nice and thick here. It's got a nice open canal, plenty of space for the nerves to get through, plenty, and the spinal cord. So that's not going to give anybody any trouble. Let's look at an MRI. You can see all this white space here, a lot of space there. That's going to allow the spine to be able to get the nerves out where they're not getting pinched. So this would be a very normal spine. And it's also a these are happy spines, because these kind of people can go out and play tennis and golf, and they're not going to get in any trouble with their back. So now I want to talk about what actually leads to the narrowing, the space for the nerve to be so narrow that it's causing problems. There's a couple different reasons that hole narrows. So let's look at that. One way is when abnormal stress gets on the spine, it causes the spine to get bone spurs on it and arthritis. So here's the side. It should be nice and thick. Look at these bone spurs sticking right in where all the nerves are. That's fairly rude. I mean, that's going to hurt somebody. We don't want bone spurs in the middle of our canal. So arthritis is bad. That's one of the things that makes the canal narrow. Another, here's an example. You can see there's the spinal nerves. That's good, but look right here. This is stenosis. That's because bone spurs are sticking in there. Bad deal. Here it is on x-ray. Big canal there, right through here it's getting stenotic, especially down here. These people are going to have a hard time standing up very long. They're going to probably have some pain down their back and legs. And compared to this, see, now look at this one. See how good that one is versus this one. Another reason the canal narrows is from disc problems. So let's look at this. Let's look at a degenerated disc. See, this disc makes a big space for the nerve to get through because it's nice and thick. But when the disc degenerates, that space gets too small for the nerve, and it pinches the nerve and causes a stenotic situation, that narrowing. Here's an example of an x-ray. That's a degenerated disc there. And that makes that canal too small. Let's look at this one. Here's an MRI. Look at that. There's that degenerated disc. It's getting into the canal, and we got problems right there. This looks good, but there it doesn't. Another factor that can cause stenosis is when the disc bulges out into the canal. So let's take a look at that. Here is a cross section. You can see the disc is not in the middle where it belongs. That jelly has escaped out the back, and this covering is pushing into the nerve. And that takes up space. That makes the canal narrow. That makes it stenotic. Look at here. Good space right here. Now watch it bottleneck. Here it goes, bottleneck there. and that's going to cause problems. This person's got stenosis. That's the L4 and L5 disc. So an MRI report, it's going to say this person's, Mr. Jones has stenosis at L4, L5, caused from a bulging disc. Another one is herniated disc. So it's like the bulge, except you're going to see it's coming out even further. Look at that. Sucker's sticking out like a sore thumb right in the canal. Again, that's a rude situation. Now look at this. Canal's too small, stenosis. Another condition that can cause the spinal canal to narrow and pinch that nerve is called spondylolisthesis. Now that's a long word and it's hard to say, and all it means is slip. So let's look at this situation. See how this bone's in line, but look at this bone, how it's slipped forward against that bone. See, this bone's gone forward. It's a drawing of that. And it should be backed up about 1 inch. Now look at that. See, right there. This is stenosis right there. It's pinching that spinal nerve and causing pain. Now some people get stenosis genetically. They're just born like that. And I want to show you a couple of things here. Here's, again, there's that same picture. It's nice and a lot of space there. But, and then here's side views, good. But some people are just born with small canals. Look at that, big canal there, little canal looking down. And these people are going to have problems. Usually people with genetic stenosis, they're going to probably have problems when they're younger, whereas the general stenosis that we all think about that's not genetic, that's going to come as we age, because when we age is when these bulges, these disc bulges are going to show up and degeneration is going to show up. So that's something that comes for most people when they get, maybe in their 50s and 60s. I'm Dr. Graham, the back pain professional.